Hello everybody, this is Cyrus, and tonight's video I'm talking about what typically happens at death. Doesn't apply to everybody, but this is something that happens to a lot of people, and it's kind of the most common way things progress. Now, somebody was requesting that I do more videos about what happens at death and not just what doesn't happen at death. So this is an attempt at that. I do have other videos about this topic further back on the video page, but I hope to at least encapsulate some of the most common things as reported by a lot of reliable mediums I know, as well as my own experiences doing astral projection and communicating to people who have crossed over. Now, first of all, let me preface this by saying there is contention in this area because if you talk to different popular authors, they say different things. So people heavily invested in near-death experiences will say that you encounter the light and then maybe you rejoin some cosmic soul group, and then if you're into like Michael Newton's work or heavily into reincarnation type of stuff, you may say you get funneled back into some new life on Earth. All these types of things. I mean, again, I don't want to go into too much rant mode again about information that's probably inaccurate, but a lot of these accounts discount the real afterlife. So encountering the light, to me, is not necessarily the afterlife. That's a higher consciousness experience, and it's almost like something you can experience even in this life. So people who reach high levels of meditation will have similar experiences as near-death experiencers, reaching like high levels of consciousness. So when that happens in a near-death experience, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're in the afterlife as we would define it, as a continuation of the individual existence. What's happening there is they're having a transcendental higher consciousness experience that was sparked as a result of the physical dying process. When you're ready to begin a life on the other side, what typically happens is that you will appear in a house. And so that sounds a little bit mundane, doesn't it? So I have up on the screen a nice, well, do you want to call that nice? I guess it's nice, yeah. A nice little country home. But really the house you appear in is up to, rather dependent on where you feel like you're at home in this world. So if you have a house you grew up in, then, let's say the whole family grew up on a, like a little two-story home in the suburbs. And then, the kids grew up, the parents sold the house, they moved to Mexico. Well, there's no like soul attachment to the beach house in Mexico. That old house ends up with new owners, but it left like an imprint on the astral side. And this imprint was probably set up by the family collectively, the soul group, maybe assistance by other beings. Whatever the case is, some power, and again, it could be yourselves, basically hit the cosmic copy and paste and took the house that you and your family had at some point on the astral level decided was the best representation of the family. They hit copy and paste and spliced it into the astral realm, and that becomes kind of like the point that I use the term a soul bound. So your soul becomes kind of bound to this location. So there is a family home when I was a kid, and it's not very glamorous because it was just a single wide mobile home out in the desert where I grew up. And eventually we built a big ranch around it, but we kept that single wide trailer. But that has all the sentimental value to me, and that became the house that I would say my family became soul-bound to. So when I first began having out-of-body experiences, I would appear in the old mobile home, but it was the exact mobile home. So imagine this, I would go to sleep in my bedroom here at the place I rent in Los Angeles, go to sleep and wake up and find myself back at the old mobile home that was long ago torn down. And I'd be in my old bedroom that I lived in as a kid, same curtains, same books on the shelves, same belongings, but also different belongings, and I can get into that later. You see, typically these astral homes will begin to accumulate its own characteristics because you live in them, you appear there while you're asleep. Other family members appear there. People begin to have lives in these places, and so it begins to change and evolve into its own characteristics. So I would appear in my bedroom, like I would go to sleep here and wake up in my bed there, and look around and be like, "Holy shit! I'm back in the old trailer. How can this be possible?" And I would get up and walk down the hall. Sometimes I'd see my cat, who died at age 17 back in like 2003. So I had that cat since I was a baby. And that cat, was living again on that side. I would, look around the place and find, yep, this is the old home. I would hang out for a while, and then the experience would end. I'd be back in LA. When my mom passed away, what happened to her is that at one moment she was in the hospital, and she was dying of acute liver failure, and very sick, and slipped into unconsciousness, and then she woke up in the same location, and she didn't know what was going on. And then so she told me, "I must be having some kind of dementia, Cyrus, because my memory, I was in the hospital, and they were not treating me very nicely at all. They had this horrible feeding tube down my throat. It just didn't seem necessary to do all that to me. But whatever. I was just in the hospital, and now I'm back in the in the old mobile home in the desert, and I thought they got rid of this place. So I don't know what's happening." But this confused state didn't last long. She figured things out pretty quickly, and there was, of course, help from guides and higher beings, which will also happen, especially in that circumstance, to help things go more smoothly and to reduce the amount of panic, confusion, or anything like that, especially to somebody who's not expecting this kind of thing to happen. In the following weeks, anytime that I would come out of my body, I would appear again inside the home, usually with her hanging out in her old bedroom and just, hanging out there. Now, the kicker is sometimes I would pop up there and I would see my living brother, because he would be sleeping at the same time, hanging out in the same mobile home, sometimes with me and my mom. But he wouldn't have memory when he would wake up, but I would, because I was astral projecting. Sometimes my brother would look like he was maybe a teenager again, and I have spoken to him, and he does have kind of funky dreams that he's back in the old mobile home. Just the thing is, for him it's more like dreams, but when you connect your consciousness, you're astral projecting, then it's more like you're really there. And of course, if you're dead, then you're really there. It's just as same as the reality we're in right now. When a different brother passed away about a year after my mom died, the next time I saw him was in that home, but he didn't appear there. Maybe his astral territory is someplace else, but he was visiting. In fact, he had purchased a new pickup truck, and he was driving down sometimes to visit his mom, and then as well as myself, if I would appear there in an astral experience. Wait a second, they don't have cars on the astral plane. What are you talking about, Cyrus? Well, this is the astral earth. Some people call it the middle astral. I like to call it the mundane astral, because it's not quite as glamorous as depictions of heavenly locations. But again, we're talking about typical places people go to. I hate to say it, but a lot of people don't have a lot of zeal to explore new and crazy environments, and so a lot of people don't go to these fantastical heavenly environments. They go to the astral earth, where I think probably, I'd guess, 80% of people who die go to. So, excuse me. So, right, and then, later down the line, my father passes away. Again, where do I find him at? Same place. At this point, my mom has moved out of that place, I had an astral experience. My mom was showing off a place that she was staying at on Astral, Italy. And I think she had, I don't want to let my father know, but I think she had some new boyfriend there. And we actually sat and watched a film together. I remember it was, what was that Coen Brothers flick with George Clooney that came out recently, like Hail Caesar or something. So we were watching this, and I hadn't actually seen it on this side. I was watching it for the first time on that side, on a big screen TV. This was later on, like in Astral, Italy. So that gives you an idea of just how, in a way, mundane the dying experience can be. How you can just pop up in a very familiar territory, like you didn't even die. You won't even know what happened. But of course, you're in the afterlife, which means people are teleporting as a means of locomotion. People are communicating telepathically. People are creating things with their minds. There's sometimes fantastical creatures. The geography is the same, but it's much more fantastical in some respects. I could walk out of the old home in the desert, and the astral version of, like, let's say the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. Like, any area of nature is going to be more fantastical and crazy, with different creatures and all kinds of things. I was talking to my living brother once in an astral state about what the difference is between that side and this side, and then he told me basically the astral side is the magical version of the earth plane. So you have the non-magical, boring version, then you have the really fantastical, magical version. So all that stuff is happening around you on the astral side, yet most people are trying to eke out like their old lives again. People having jobs, cities, commerce, governments, people buying and trading, people making money per hour. I think it's just because it's what people are used to, and so they just keep doing what they're used to, no matter how distasteful that might sound to you. It's just what people want to do. They want to get back to their old lives again, and I don't judge them for it. I think it's okay. So typically when you die, yes, okay, so we can learn about going toward the light, the life review, being some, super powerful spirit flying through the realms, or, like Billy Fingers, right, and joining some higher consciousness. I think these things can happen, but I think we're looking at an 80-20 kind of thing. I think 80% of people who die go to the medium astral and just continue their old lives, and they evolve, or they progress, or they learn, they grow at their own pace. And I think that there's this minority of people, when they die, their consciousness is already in this kind of higher state, and so they become a higher density entity when they die. So they might not be in the middle astral, they might be something that's much more powerful, multi-dimensional, maybe not really physical, maybe in like what we call an energy body or a rainbow body. And some people, they shoot straight to some higher realm. But it's like the people who have those high level experiences, like they're already at that level. They were just temporarily in a human incarnated body, and they just went back naturally to the type of existence that best suited them. But this is a minority, in my opinion. I would say the vast majority of people, they go to a nice home that's been set up for them, where they get to be with their families again. Sometimes it's a combination. Somebody exists on this high level, but they want to go back, like with their deceased, with their loved ones that had also been deceased, and they might, shrink themselves back down, go up to the middle astral levels, and be with their families. Alternatively, I think also a lot of these advanced souls, people who are more of a cosmic nature, they come back down to this middle astral level because they want to explore, they want to be of assistance or service that they can't necessarily be of service on those higher levels. I think if you already have a fulfilling like sense of self, love, and you know, high vibration, you carry that with you into your heart, and you can go to any location, no matter how nasty, dirty, grimy it is, this world or the astral. You'll still be happy. You can bring that brightness with you. So a lot of advanced entities also prefer to live in the normal astral earth. And there's so much to explore, and cultures and things like that. So it's a fantastic place in my opinion. Obviously not everybody ends up there, but again, this is just the typical Joe average experience. So we can carry on from that. You know, you have to get settled in again, learn the ropes. You may end up in like a special school where they teach you about your new existence. You may also go through a process of relearning things like your memories when you've been there before, like during your whole incarnated life, having experiences on that side and getting those memories back. You may also begin to get the memories back of past lives. So I don't have all the details about this, but I believe it happens on a gradual basis. So at first, you basically as you were right before you died, and then once you're back on that side, it's like, you know, your mind readapts to a whole lot of information about your past lives, about your parallel lives on that side, maybe your concurrent lives, and it all kind of comes together, and then the end result being you're more like back in touch with your higher self or your true self. So you have memory again of all these lives. Probably your consciousness is expanded out. You may end up on a higher level realm. You may, you may find yourself operating like on this higher level once you've got all your memories back and you've relearned who you are. So it's a little bit of a relearning process. There may be like very young, kind of young souls, quote, who don't have a lot of other lives or things to remember, and they may kind of just stay on that same level, not want to advance too much. They're still learning a lot of new things. So that is, in a nutshell, what can typically happen at death. But from this point, I mean, look, the world is your oyster. What do you want to do? I've seen all kinds of things on the astral plane, and as I hear so much from other out-of-body people, out-of-body explorers rather, who talk about, so many, interesting adventures that you can go into. Are you into Harry Potter? Well, there's a whole Harry Potter subculture on that side where people recreate Hogwarts and do all that kind of stuff. Are you into Lord of the Rings? Are you into Star Wars? Are you into Star Trek? Do you want to go in a spaceship and explore the universe? Do you want to, get a crew on a spaceship and go visit other planets? Do you want to do meaningful work? Do you want to go be a teacher? Do you want to pursue filmmaking and go make films with famous dead celebrities? Do you want to go work with Humphrey Bogart in Hollywood? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So if none of that sounds appealing to you, then you, my friend, have no imagination. But I think for most of us, there's enough to keep the individual soul happy and busy for indefinite periods. And that's what makes existence fun, because all that creation and art and exploration and adventure, it all continues right there in that middle astral level. But the staging area is going to be someplace very familiar, like a house. So what will happen when you die? I'm neither here nor there about going toward the light and having those common NDE elements. It can happen, but you're also very likely to have an experience where you just pop up in a familiar location. You may pop up in like a place very specific to your soul group. You may find yourself in some glorious temple or some library or cathedral, surrounded by like people that you can't, it's like they're different but they're familiar. People from past lives, things like that. There's all kinds of things that can happen like that. It's impossible to say for sure what will happen to you specifically. But I will say, I'll leave this video on this note. If you have a lot of dreams about one specific location, 90% chance that's where you'll appear when you die. So if you always have the same dream about the same country cabin, and you know it's inside out, that's a place that you're soul bound to. That's where you're going to appear when you kick the bucket. So rest assured, I'm 90% sure that once your brain shuts off, you will pop up on that side. Maybe you'll wake up there, maybe you'll have gone through a period of like being unconscious. Sometimes I hear about that, but probably you're going to pop up right in that house, probably be surrounded by friends and family who have gone on ahead of you. If you like this video, please hit subscribe, help this channel stay alive. If you like what I have to say, I have a couple books out there: Understanding Life After Death, The Afterlife, and Beyond. You can order them, I think, at Barnes & Noble currently, but you can also get it for sure at Amazon. And you can check out the Facebook group, Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. Very big group, lots of active discussions, lots. You can check out my classes at afterlifetopics.com/university. Thanks for coming here, and I'll see you on the next video.